The camera opens on a narrow street lined with old houses, where the early morning sun is just beginning to rise. The air feels still, as if it's waiting for someone, to step forward and break the silence. And in that quiet we see her. A woman walking with slow, determined steps, her hands clutching an old cloth bag. Her eyes hold the weight of years but also a spark, small yet unshakable. Her name is Aisha, and this is the untold story of how she stood against the world, even when the world swore she would fall. Aisha was born in a neighborhood where a woman's life was expected to follow one single script. She was told from childhood that dreams were not meant for girls like her. Girls were supposed to bend, to shrink, to remain grateful for whatever life handed them. But Aisha had a different kind of heart. She was quiet, but she was fierce. She listened, but she observed even more. She absorbed everything, every harsh word, every unfair rule, every limitation placed on her, and somewhere deep within her it turned into strength. Her father was a hard-working man, the kind who left before sunrise and returned only when the stars were out. Her mother was gentle but tired. The world had made sure she understood her limits, and she tried her best to pass those limits to her daughter. "Don't dream too much," she would say. "Girls who dream often lose everything." Aisha always nodded, but she never agreed, not in her heart. As she grew older, her curiosity grew too. She wanted to study, she wanted to learn. And most of all, she wanted to prove she could stand shoulder to shoulder with anyone. But to everyone around her, she was just a girl born to be hidden behind walls. Her requests to pursue further education were dismissed. Her opinions were called disrespectful. Her silence was demanded more than her existence was acknowledged. But women like Aisha, they don't break quietly. One winter evening when she was barely 18, a marriage proposal arrived. The man was older, wealthy, and most importantly, according to society, a good match. Aisha refused without hesitation. But instead of listening to her, her relatives questioned her womanhood, her character, her upbringing. They told her she was ungrateful, that she must accept what life offered. But she stood firm. It was the first time she openly stood against the tide. And the tide hit back with cruelty. She wasn't allowed to leave her home for days. Her books were taken. Her friends were kept away. They wanted to break her spirit so she would surrender. But in that isolation, something inside her awakened. She realized she wasn't just fighting a proposal. She was fighting a mindset that believed she had no right to choose her own life. One night, sitting under the dim light of a small lantern, she told herself something that would change everything. "If I give up today, every girl who comes after me will be forced to give up too." That became her reason. When her father finally allowed her to resume her studies, it wasn't because he fully agreed. It was because he recognized a fire in her that wasn't going to die. Aisha stepped out of the house with the same old cloth bag but a new purpose. She enrolled in college, enduring stares, whispers, and the constant reminder that according to many, she didn't belong there. But she kept her head high. Every day wasn't victory. Some days she cried quietly in the college washroom, where no one could see her tears. Some days she wondered if fighting this battle alone was worth it. But then she would remember the voices from her childhood telling her girls weren't meant to dream, and she would stand up again, stronger. Her professors noticed her dedication. She wasn't the loudest, but she was the most consistent. She asked questions, stayed late to study, and even helped other students. When exam results came, her name was at the top of the list. The same relatives who once called her stubborn now called her lucky. But Aisha knew luck had nothing to do with it. It was every sleepless night, every silent tear, every little prayer she had whispered into her pillow. Yet even success didn't shield her from society's expectations. People whispered, "What is the use of education for a woman? Eventually she must end up in the kitchen." Even some of her classmates mocked her ambition. But Aisha had stopped listening to limitations. She wasn't studying to escape her life. She was studying to build it. Then came the biggest turning point. During her final year, she was offered a job internship at a reputable company. It was an opportunity that could change everything. When she brought the news home, the silence in the room felt heavier than ever. Her father sat still, her mother looked worried, her relatives began their usual lectures. They told her working outside would ruin their family honor. They said no good man would marry a girl who wanted independence. They said a woman's place was inside the home, not in an office. But this time Aisha didn't argue. She stood calmly and said words that shook everyone. If my dreams threaten your honor, then maybe your honor needs to change. For the first time in her life, she saw fear in their eyes, not fear of her, but fear of the truth she had spoken. Her father, torn between tradition and love, finally agreed to let her take the internship. And that decision opened a door not just for her, but for every other girl in that neighborhood who watched her closely, hoping one day they could be like her. Aisha stepped into the corporate world with trembling hands, but an unbreakable heart. She faced challenges every day, people doubting her abilities, colleagues underestimating her, men questioning her place. But she didn't crumble. She learned, she grew, and slowly she stood tall. The internship turned into a job. The job turned into a promotion. And the promotion turned into recognition, real recognition. Today, Aisha is a project manager leading a team of people who respect her, admire her, and rely on her. The girl who was once expected to remain silent is now a woman whose voice influences decisions. But the most beautiful part of her journey is not her career. It's the legacy she unknowingly created. Mothers in her neighborhood began allowing their daughters to study longer. Fathers pointed to Aisha and said, "Look at her, she made something of her life." Young girls who once hid their dreams now speak them aloud with confidence. Women who once felt trapped now feel hopeful. When Aisha walks through her street today, those same people who doubted her offer her smiles and respect. They call her an inspiration. They tell her she changed things. But Aisha always shakes her head gently and replies, "I didn't change anything. I just refused to accept what should never have been accepted." Her story is a reminder that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes strength is the quiet decision to not give up. Strength is choosing to stand even when your legs are shaking. Strength is believing in yourself even when the world doesn't. Aisha's fight wasn't against a single person. It was against a mindset, a belief, a generational cage built around women. And she didn't break it by force. She broke it by refusing to live inside it. This is her truth. A truth that belongs not just to her, but to countless women who stand alone, who fight silently, who carry the weight of expectations but still choose to rise. Aisha stood against all odds, not because she wanted to be a hero, but because she wanted to live as a human being who deserved choices, dignity, and respect. Her journey teaches us that bravery isn't about never being scared. Bravery is being scared but moving forward anyway. And sometimes all it takes to change an entire community is one woman who decides she has had enough. Today, Aisha continues to work, continues to inspire, and continues to open doors for others. She mentors girls, supports dreamers, and speaks openly about the pressures women face. She tells them that society will always have something to say, but their life belongs to them and only them. And that is the story of a woman who stood against everything, against every voice telling her no, against every rule meant to silence her. She is proof that courage is contagious, that resilience can reshape generations, and that the world changes the moment a woman decides she deserves better. Her story is real. Her pain was real. Her victory is real. And her impact will last far beyond her lifetime. Because every time a girl picks up a book instead of fear, every time a woman chooses her future instead of surrendering it, every time someone remembers Aisha's journey and chooses courage over silence, her story continues. This was the story of a woman who stood against all odds and won.